Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the A segment of episode 57 of the Loud House City Slickers. We begin this segment with Lincoln and Lori in Vanzilla, and they're on their way to Great Lakes City to visit the Santiago family and the Casagrande family for the weekend. Lincoln explains to the viewers that Lori wishes to have a better understanding of what Great Lakes City is like, since Lori plans to go to the college there with Bobby once she graduates from high school. Lincoln insists that he's just going for moral support and to have some of the Casagrande food. Lori is excited about the visit, not just because she gets to see Bobby again, but also because she considers herself to be a city girl at heart, in her words. We then get to see Lori's daydream sequence where she imagines what life in Great Lakes City might be like. Scenes in this daydream sequence include Lori riding a taxi, Lori riding a subway train, and Lori strolling through the streets. This daydream sequence is also a reference to the intro for That Girl. After Lori finishes imagining her daydream sequence, she inquires Lincoln about if he's looking forward to seeing Ronnie Anne again. Lincoln says he is, and we see Lincoln's daydream sequence where he imagines what his interactions with Ronnie Anne in Great Lakes City might be like. And throughout the daydream sequence, Ronnie Anne performs some roughhousing, pranking, and teasing, but after the daydream sequence ends, Lincoln says he's missed Ronnie Anne. The next scene takes us to the Casagrande family building, both the bodega and the home part of the building. And inside the home part of the building, we see Maria and some of the Casagrande family members making preparations for Lincoln and Lori's arrival. One of these preparations is hanging up a sign, and Hector thinks it's unnecessary. Hector actually inquires some of his family members about when they became sign people. We also see that Ronnie Anne is trying to hide from her family members. Ronnie Anne is hiding behind Lalo, and she admits that she smells like dog now, but she thinks that trade-off is worth it. And while her family members are distracted, Ronnie Anne sneaks away from Lalo and sneaks into a different room. Eventually, Carlos Jr., aka CJ, notices Lincoln and Lori when they enter the home part of the building. So Maria and some of the Casagrande family members greet Lincoln and Lori. We also see that Carlino has a formal suit underneath his pajamas. So Hector tells Lori that Bobby is in the bodega right now, so Lori goes to the bodega to say hi to Bobby. In the dining room, Rosa shows Lincoln that she's made both breakfast and lunch because she didn't know if Lincoln and Lori would prefer breakfast or lunch. Lincoln says he can eat both breakfast and lunch, and Rosa is pleased to hear this. She gives Lincoln a plate full of food, both breakfast and lunch food, and Carlos Jr. wants to play pirates with Lincoln. Lincoln is willing to go along with Carlos Jr.'s pirate game, but he requests that he finish eating first, and Carlos Jr. is okay with this. Carlos Jr. says that he's a fair pirate, or he says something along those lines at least. Eventually, Ronnie Anne notices Lincoln in the dining room, and Ronnie Anne sneaks up on Lincoln before greeting him. Lincoln greets Ronnie Anne in return and reveals that he brought a present for Ronnie Anne. Ronnie Anne opens the present and finds a Royal Woods hoodie inside. They call it a sweatshirt, but it looks like there's a hood on this particular article of clothing, so I'm going to call it a hoodie. But in any case, it's a yellow hoodie with a blue R and W on the front. So Ronnie Anne trades out her signature purple hoodie for this Royal Woods hoodie. And Lincoln reveals that he got the hoodie from Gus's Games and Grub, which is why it smells like garlic knots. Ronnie Anne says that she considers the garlic knot smell to be preferable to the dog smell, and she thanks Lincoln for this gift. Frida then enters the room and has Ronnie Anne's phone with her. She says that Samir is trying to call Ronnie Anne right now. Ronnie Anne quickly takes the phone from, Ronnie Anne quickly takes her phone from her aunt, and she hangs up, or she declines the call, yes. Ronnie Anne takes her phone from her aunt and declines the call, saying that now isn't the best time to talk to Samir. Lincoln inquires who Samir is, and Frida explains that Samir is a kid that Ronnie Anne befriended after she arrived in Great Lakes City. We also find out that there are other kids too, but their names haven't been revealed just yet. Frida goes on to say that Ronnie Anne, Samir, and these other kids all became fast friends, and Frida thinks that it was a very heartwarming moment. Lincoln is intrigued. Lincoln is interested in meeting Samir and these other kids. But Ronnie Anne quickly tries to discourage Lincoln from this idea, saying that the weekend is all about him. And Ronnie Anne says that there's much to catch up on. So Ronnie Anne encourages Lincoln to follow her into her room. So after that, we then head to the bodega, where Lori greets Bobby and Bobby greets Lori in return. Bobby reveals that he made a recent improvement for the bodega and he wants to show Lori. This improvement is that he organized the money in the cash register so that the faces of the presidents are all facing the same direction. Lori thinks that this is a great improvement, and Bobby thanks Lori for the compliment, but he also admits that because he took so much time with this improvement, that means he has to stay in the bodega until 5 o'clock. But Lori assures Bobby that that's perfectly okay. Lori can use this time to explore Great Lakes City. Bobby wishes Lori luck on her exploration, and he says he hopes Lori has a great time in Great Lakes City like he has after getting to know the city. Lori is confident that she will have a good time since, once again, she calls herself a city girl at heart. We do see a quick daydream sequence again, but Lori is interrupted when Bobby admits that he trapped himself in a beverage case by accident because he was trying to get a soda for Lori. The next scene takes us to Ronnie Anne's room, and we see Lincoln and Ronnie Anne are playing a video game. It looks like a game that's... the game looks like it's supposed to be a reference to Street Fighter. So Lincoln and Ronnie Anne are having a match in this fighting video game, and Ronnie Anne wins, but they all have a good time all the same. And Ronnie Anne inquires if Lincoln would like to have another match. Lincoln thinks maybe later on, but for now, Lincoln wants to explore Great Lakes City. But Ronnie Anne tries to discourage Lincoln from that idea. She insists that there's nothing of interest in Great Lakes City. She gives examples like saying that there's just subway cars that smell bad and just a lot of tall buildings. And yeah, she's really trying to discourage Lincoln from this idea. But Maria and Frida Maria and Frida enter the room, and they try to encourage Ronnie Anne to give Lincoln a tour of Great Lakes City. So Lincoln, Maria, and Frida are all just staring at Ronnie Anne with occasional blinking here or there. And Frida says they're not going to stop until Ronnie Anne goes along with the idea. So Ronnie Anne begrudgingly agrees to go along with this idea. After Lincoln and Ronnie Anne leave, though, Maria and Frida decide to play this fighting video game, and they look like that they're really getting into the spirit of this fighting video game. In Carlotta's room, we see Carlotta giving Lori an outfit to wear while she explores Great Lakes City, and this outfit is actually the same outfit that Lori imagined in her daydream sequence. Lori actually admits this is exactly the outfit she imagined, and it's a surprise that she has this exact outfit. Carlotta responds that having everything when it comes to fashion comes with the territory of being a fashion expert, or she says something along those lines at least. Carlos Jr. continues to play pirates. Lori and Carlotta are willing to play along with Carlos Jr.'s pirate game. And eventually Carlino enters the room. Carlino offers to be Lori's guide while she explores Great Lakes City. Lori appreciates Carlino's offer, but assures Carlino that she can explore Great Lakes City on her own accord. Carlino is understanding of this, and Lori thinks Carlino's response is adorable before she heads off to explore Great Lakes City. So the next scene takes us to a different area of Great Lakes City. Lincoln and Ronnie Anne are walking down a sidewalk, and Ronnie Anne is giving Lincoln a tour, but we can see that she's very unenthusiastic about it. She's just pointing out some tall buildings here or there, and sarcastically comments about what a great tour it is. Eventually, though, Lincoln notices on the other side of the street there are 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl. And these 3 kids know Ronnie Anne. They call out to Ronnie Anne. Yes, these 3 kids know Ronnie Anne. They call out to her and even call her by her name. But Ronnie Anne ignores them. Lincoln points out that those kids were trying to get Ronnie Anne's attention. And Ronnie Anne quickly takes off her hoodie and she ties it around her waist. And then the 3 kids cross the street to talk to Ronnie Anne. The 3 kids inquire if Ronnie Anne heard them, but Ronnie Anne insists that she didn't hear them. And we then get some awkward silence where Ronnie Anne is trying to play things cool, but Lincoln and the 3 kids clearly don't know each other, even though they mutually know Ronnie Anne. So Lincoln tries to break the awkward silence by introducing himself and figures surely Ronnie Anne must have told them about him. The kids admit that they actually never heard of Lincoln before, but they are quick to greet Lincoln. One of these boys is Samir, the other boy is Casey, and the girl is Nikki. Nikki inquires Lincoln about how he knows Ronnie Anne. Ronnie Anne, though, quickly insists that Lincoln is a part of her rough and tumble past, in her words. Lincoln, though, thinks that this is some kind of joke. He says that the only rough and tumble event he recalls is some carnival ride. But Ronnie Anne quickly tries to change the subject and insists that they need to get going on this tour. But Lincoln then invites the 3 kids, we'll call them the City Kids Trio for now. Yes, Lincoln invites the City Kids Trio to join them. And the City Kids Trio are happy to accept this invitation. Ronnie Anne is nervous, but she quickly puts on a false smile afterwards. So next up, we see Lori's exploration of Great Lakes City. Lori buys a beverage and she's strolling down the street, but some people keep bumping into her and some people act rather rude about it. And eventually the beverage spills onto Lori because of all these people bumping into her. Lori tries to call a taxi, but none of the taxis stop. And eventually a bus goes by. The bus goes over a puddle and Lori is splashed by the puddle because of the bus driving over the puddle. The next scene takes us to a fountain. Lincoln, Ronnie Anne, and the City Kids Trio are eating hot dogs at this fountain. Samir inquires Lincoln about what Lincoln and Ronnie Anne did for fun, but Samir is under the impression that Lincoln and Ronnie Anne are from 300th Street, and Lincoln is confused about this. Lincoln is about to inquire Samir about what gave him the idea that they were from 300th Street, but Ronnie Anne quickly tries to distract everyone by pretending to accidentally squirt ketchup onto Lincoln's shirt. And then some pigeons arrive to try and take Lincoln's hot dog. Lincoln is trying to fend off the pigeons, and he comments about how troublesome these pigeons are. Casey, though, uses breadcrumbs to distract the pigeons. He uses the breadcrumbs to get the pigeons' attention, and he tosses them elsewhere so the pigeons will fly off after these breadcrumbs. But Casey is confused about Lincoln's surprise about the pigeons. Casey says, surely the pigeons are troublesome uptown too, or he says something along those lines. Lincoln, though, is confused about this, and he's about to clarify the misunderstanding. But hoping to distract everyone again, Ronnie Anne pushes Lincoln into the fountain and passes off her reason along the lines of saying that Lincoln looked sweaty. Or yes, Ronnie Anne tries to say that she pushed Lincoln into the fountain because Lincoln looked sweaty. That's Ronnie Anne's attempt to pass off her actions, or that's the reason she tries to use for her actions. So next up, we head back to Lori. Lori boards a subway train, but she realizes too late that the subway train is going to take her to a destination different from the one she was planning to go to. The next scene takes us to a tall building. It may very well, yes, this building may actually be the tallest building in Great Lakes City. Lincoln, Ronnie Anne, and the City Kids trio take the elevator to the top of this tall building. And one of the staff members greets them while also commenting about how anyone who stops by should have a complimentary souvenir photo before they leave. So Lincoln is impressed by the sight. Lincoln mentions that the tallest building where he's from isn't nearly as tall as this building. Although Lincoln doesn't bring up that he's from Royal Woods, he just vaguely says where he's from or something along those lines anyway. Lincoln, though, does admit that the tallest building where he's from does have a good view of the chicken farm that his friend Liam's family has. Nikki is confused about this. She says that, yes, Nikki says she's never heard of any chicken farms in the city, and Lincoln is about to clarify that he's not actually from the city, but he's interrupted by Ronnie Anne distracting everyone by saying that she sees a blimp. So Lincoln and the City Kids trio look for the blimp, but there's no blimp. Ronnie Anne insists that they just missed the blimp. After this, though, Lincoln is starting to, noticing how Ronnie Anne has been trying to distract everyone from certain topics. Lincoln starts to look suspicious. Or yes, Lincoln has a suspicious look on his face. And he also notices that Ronnie Anne is cold up at the top of this tall building. So Lincoln suggests to Ronnie Anne that she put her hoodie on. But Ronnie Anne insists that she's fine. So Lincoln then inquires if he can borrow the hoodie because of how cold it is. But Ronnie Anne insists that Lincoln is fine. He doesn't need the hoodie. So Lincoln takes Ronnie Anne off to a different part of the area so that the City Kids trio are out of hearing distance. And Lincoln reveals to Ronnie Anne that he now knows that Ronnie Anne had lied to the City Kids trio about being from uptown rather than Royal Woods. Ronnie Anne insists that tries to deny this, but Lincoln doesn't fall for this, and he questions if Ronnie Anne is embarrassed of being from Royal Woods. But Ronnie Anne simply responds that Lincoln should not go into that topic any further, or Ronnie Anne tries to urge Lincoln to not keep bringing up that topic. Lincoln says that even if Ronnie Anne doesn't want to bring the topic up, he's not going to lie about where he's from. And so Lincoln is about to head back to where the City Kids trio are, but Ronnie Anne stops Lincoln, and in a moment of stress, Ronnie Anne questions why Lincoln has to ruin everything. She says that she never requested Lincoln to visit Great Lakes City in the first place. Lincoln responds by saying that he thinks that it's probably best then if he leaves, and he's going to take his complimentary souvenir photo first. So Lincoln storms off, and Ronnie Anne has a look of regret on her face, realizing that she's made a big mistake. Back with Lori. Lori is looking at a map to try and figure out where she is now, but she ends up falling through a manhole. So we head back to the Casagrande family building, and in the home part of the building, Bobby, Maria, and the Casagrande family are watching TV. Eventually, though, Lincoln enters the area, and he lies to Maria, Bobby, and the Casagrande family by saying that he needs to return home because he just remembered an errand he needs to fulfill. So Lincoln is preparing to leave, and after that, Lori enters the building. Lori is crying, and Bobby goes up to Lori to question what's wrong, and Bobby and Lori go off to a different room so that they can talk. Ronnie Anne then enters the building and inquires if any of them have seen Lincoln. Maria points out that, Maria mentions that Lincoln is preparing to leave and inquires what's going on. Ronnie Anne admits that she made a terrible mistake before going to try and talk to Lincoln. Maria and the Casagrande family are wondering what's going on, and they decide that they need to figure out what's going on, so they split into two groups and try to listen in on these different conversations. So some of the Casagrande family members are listening to Lori and Bobby's conversation. Lori says to Bobby that she doesn't think she can handle living in Great Lake City, even though this goes against their plan together. Lori brings up how she fell in a manhole. Bobby comforts Lori and admits that when he first explored Great Lake City, he had a lot of misfortune happen to him too. He mentions how he ran into a police horse, but fortunately the police horse hadn't had lunch yet. Let's not go further than that. And Bobby admits that life in Great Lake City is not always going to be easy, but thinks it's a great place once you get the swing of things. And he's confident that Lori will have a great time there once she gets into the swing of things. Lori appreciates Bobby's words of encouragement and comfort, and she thanks Bobby. So next up, we do see some of the family members listening in on Lincoln and Ronnie Anne's conversation. Ronnie Anne urges Lincoln not to leave and says that she didn't mean what she said. It was just in the heat of the moment, and admits that she does want to visit with Lincoln, or she wants to be around Lincoln. Lincoln says he doesn't understand why Ronnie Anne is so determined to prevent the City Kids trio from finding out that she's from Royal Woods. Ronnie Anne admits that she fears that the City Kids trio wouldn't want to hang out with her if they found out that she wasn't from the city. And Lincoln, though, responds that if these kids are really Ronnie Anne's friends, then surely they'll want to be her friends because of her, not because of where she's from. Ronnie Anne figures that Lincoln has a point, and she does appreciate what Lincoln said. Ronnie Anne also says that they need to have a do-over of the day to make things right. So when Ronnie Anne and Lincoln are leaving her room, some of the family members fall on top of them because they were leaning on the door. Frida insists that they were just doing a weekly door inspection, and this door fails the inspection. So next up, Lincoln and Ronnie Anne are now going down the sidewalk again. And Lincoln thinks that the first thing he wants to do is have a redo for his complimentary photo because he thinks it didn't turn out very ideal. We see that he looks very angry in the complimentary photo. Ronnie Anne agrees, but decides that there's another loose end she needs to take care of first. Ronnie Anne sees the City Kids trio, and she goes up to them to admit that she deceived them about where she's from. She reveals that she's from Royal Woods, and she apologizes to them for the deception, and she says she understands if they don't want to be around her anymore. But the City Kids trio assure Ronnie Anne that that's not the case. They still want to hang around with Ronnie Anne. They assure Ronnie Anne that it doesn't matter to them if you're from the city or not. Samir then reveals that he's from Kansas, actually, and Nikki acts like she's surprised to hear this, but quickly assures Samir it's a joke. She really doesn't have a problem with Samir being from Kansas. So Lincoln, Ronnie Anne, and the City Kids trio decide to hang out together again. Casey actually admits that he's interested in garlic knots now. Oh, that's right. Ronnie Anne put her hoodie back on after she admits that she's from Royal Woods. But the scene cuts to later on in time. Lincoln and Lori are preparing to leave, and we see that Lincoln did get a new complimentary photo. In this photo, Ronnie Anne pantsed Lincoln. Lincoln says he doesn't think this photo turned out much better, but Ronnie Anne's response is that's all the more reason for why Lincoln will have to return to Great Lake City again another time. And we do see Lori bidding Bobby farewell and thanking Bobby for his words of encouragement earlier. But then we see that, Lori says she's looking forward to being a city girl again, but then we see a tow truck is taking Vanzilla away. Lori is chasing after the tow truck, and Lincoln, Ronnie Anne, and Bobby are chasing after Lori. Bobby warns Lori to be careful about any potential police horses, and that is how we end this segment. So this segment is notable because this segment is the season 3 introduction for most of the Santiago family and the Casagrande family. Bobby had appeared earlier in season 3 in Selfie Improvement, and I guess you could argue Ronnie Anne had a technical appearance in White Hair through flashback, since the flashback was of Heavy Metal, Ronnie Anne's first technical appearance in the series. But if we're talking about the present day of the series, then this is Ronnie Anne's first season 3 appearance. And this is the first appearance for Maria and the Casagrande family in season 3. And this segment is also important because it's building up to two things. Yes, this segment is laying out the foundation for future events. One of these is the storyline about Lori's preparations for after graduating from high school. Some of the staff and crew members of the Loud House had mentioned in some interviews that season 3 would feature a few entries that were dedicated to building up to Lori's preparations for after graduating from high school and joining Bobby at the college in Great Lakes City. So we do get to see some of the build up to that storyline in this entry. And while I'm on the topic of the city, yes, throughout this recap and thoughts video, I've been calling the city Great Lakes City. Now, so far in the show itself, they haven't actually called the city Great Lakes City yet. This is information from supplementary material. Supplementary material revealed that the city is called Great Lakes City. So, yeah, that's a little by-the-way detail for anyone who's curious. The city is called Great Lakes City. And, yes, the other detail that this segment was building up to. This segment was also building up to the spin-off series, The Casagrandes, which is going to be about Ronnie Anne and her family are going to be the main characters for the Casagrande spin-off series. And we do build up to this spin-off series by meeting 3 characters, 3 kids that are Ronnie Anne's age, and they've befriended Ronnie Anne after she arrived in Great Lakes City. Samir, Casey, and Nikki. Now, I should go ahead and mention it now, but this is Samir, Casey, and Nikki's only, this is their only appearance in season 3, but the City Kids trio do appear in a story from either the comics or graphic novels, and I imagine that the City Kids trio will return in, I imagine that they will appear in the Casagrande spin-off series. I think they're going to be recurring role characters in the Casagrande spin-off series, but we'll have to see once the spin-off series eventually airs. So otherwise, yes, we do get to meet some more characters from Great Lakes City, or at least that are currently in Great Lakes City, since Samir revealed he's actually from Kansas. Otherwise, though, we don't learn too much about Samir, Casey, and Nikki besides a few details here or there. But like I said, I imagine that these characters will return in the spin-off series, so there will be more time for them. There will be more time to see them later on, and we will have a better understanding of these characters later on. And we will get to see more of their interactions with Ronnie Anne later on. Now, maybe we'll get to see them in Season 4 too, I'm not entirely sure, but I'm confident that we will see them again in the Casagrande spin-off series. Now, with those details in mind, this segment also gave Ronnie Anne the spotlight, Ronnie Anne was the spotlight character for this particular segment, and we do get to see, how Ronnie Anne is adjusting to being in Great Lakes City, but initially she deceived the City Kids trio into thinking that she was just from uptown originally, not from somewhere outside of Great Lakes City. But yes, going throughout the segment, it's pretty clear that this is the result of some insecurities and fears that stem from vulnerability. And this isn't the first time that we've seen those insecurities and fears appear with Ronnie Anne. Now, I have mentioned before in the past that I would consider Ronnie Anne to be the character who isn't a member of the Loud family that tends to get vilified quite a bit from some fans, even though Ronnie Anne is also a very popular character among fans of the franchise. Yes, I would say the Loud family themselves are probably the characters that get the most vilifying, which you can understand is partially because they're the main family of the show. But mostly the Loud Sisters tend to get the most vilifying from some fans due to the track record of pulling questionable actions and being karma Houdinis about them. Though the Loud parents have gotten their share of vilifying, and even Lincoln's not safe from some vilifying either, usually from some fans that try to overcorrect for Lincoln being lionized quite a bit. A misguided effort at trying to overcorrect for how the Loud Sisters get vilified more than they really deserve. So yes, not counting the Loud family characters, I would say Ronnie Anne is probably the character that gets quite a bit of vilifying on the show from some fans. And that's because some fans still hold a grudge against Ronnie Anne over her initial behavior. And I've commented before that I don't really agree with some of the with some fans' sentiments about Ronnie Anne's some fans think that Ronnie Anne got away with her more questionable actions when she first appeared, but I disagree with those fans. Some fans actually try to act like City Slickers was the only time where Ronnie Anne actually had to apologize for her actions, but I don't agree with that. I think Ronnie Anne was shown to see the consequences of her actions in Save the Date and Heavy Metal, too. Yes, I would say Save the Date was meant to accumulate for the events of Heavy Metal and Save the Date, and Ronnie Anne did apologize to Lincoln in Save the Date, and after Save the Date, Ronnie Anne hasn't really picked on Lincoln like she did in Heavy Metal and Save the Date. And I would also say that, and even if you want to take Heavy Metal by itself into account, Ronnie Anne did apologize to Lincoln for the black eye and even gave him a stake to heal his black eye. But yes, I would say, yes, I would disagree with how some fans try to act like this was the only time where Ronnie Anne saw the consequences of her actions, or how some fans try to act like Ronnie Anne was a karma Houdini. I don't agree with those sentiments. I feel Ronnie Anne did see the consequences of her actions, and she has learned her lesson and has been making a change for the better. I had acknowledged before that while I do think the Loud Sisters do get vilified more than they really deserve, I still think Ronnie Anne is a more sympathetic character compared to the Loud Sisters. And part of that is because I do feel that Ronnie Anne is shown to see the consequences of her actions and apologize for them more often than the Loud Sisters were. And I also think that, feel that that the Loud Sisters, I feel the Loud Sisters' worst actions were much more questionable compared to Ronnie Anne's worst actions. Like, yes, Ronnie Anne's worst actions weren't nice by any means, but at the same time, I would say her worst actions are still fairly minor offenses when compared to the Loud Sisters' worst actions. And like I said, I think Ronnie Anne had a better track record of apologizing for her less flattering behavior, and has a better track record of not slipping into Aesop amnesia. That's to say, I think Ronnie Anne learned her lesson and sticks with learning her lesson better when compared to the Loud Sisters. And yes, while Ronnie Anne did make some bad choices in this segment, the reasons were different. Ronnie Anne's initial misbehavior was a misguided effort to express her feelings to Lincoln. This time around, Ronnie Anne's misbehavior was because she was trying to prevent the City Kids trio from finding out that she's not actually from uptown, like she deceived them. But it's made clear that Ronnie Anne's reasons for deceiving them weren't out of malice, but the result of insecurities and fears that stemmed from vulnerability. Yes, this is also why I feel Ronnie Anne is a more sympathetic character than the Loud Sisters on their worst days. While Ronnie Anne has made some bad choices, it's pretty clear that Ronnie Anne tries to hide the fact that she does have vulnerabilities, or Ronnie Anne doesn't want to admit to others that she's more vulnerable than she lets on to them. And this has led to Ronnie Anne making some poor choices. But like I've said, Ronnie Anne at least showed the decency to see the consequences of her misbehavior and apologize for them, and I'd say overall she has a better track record of learning her lesson. Thankfully, though, the Loud Sisters are shown in a better light in Season 3. While the first two seasons did have a tendency to show the Loud Sisters in a not so flattering light, pulling some very questionable actions and being karma Houdinis about it, season 3 does portray the Loud Sisters in a better light in comparison. So I think that's helped with how that's helped with the Loud Sisters. I do think the Loud Sisters still get excessively vilified, even if I feel the Loud Sisters unflattering reputation with some fans is a little more understandable compared to Ronnie Anne, if only because I feel Ronnie Anne feels like a more sympathetic character, because I feel that Ronnie Anne's portrayal is more consistently sympathetic compared to the Loud Sisters. I think I think in all of Ronnie Anne's appearances, Ronnie Anne struck me not being an irredeemable monster who would torment Lincoln for the rest of his life, but someone who made some bad choices because of insecurities and fears that stem from vulnerability, but still showing a willingness to learn from these mistakes and make a change for the better. And yes, I do feel though that, and yes, I had brought up before, I feel that the Loud Sisters wouldn't have the notorious reputation that they had if the show was more willing to call them out for their more questionable actions and have them learn their lesson more. And like I said, season 3 does better about that. So some characters aren't being vilified so much in comparison to earlier entries, but there are still some fans that hold grudges against certain characters for their past actions. And while I think some fans might mean well about trying to discourage bad behavior, I think some of these fans miss the point about how real life is not black and white, where only good people will make good choices and only bad people will ever make bad choices. Yes, I think some people don't see or are unwilling to acknowledge that just because someone makes bad choices sometimes doesn't automatically mean that they're a bad person at heart. And I feel that's the main point with Ronnie Anne's character. I feel the point of Ronnie Anne's character is don't judge someone based solely off your first impression of them, because first impressions are not always accurate. And just because someone might make bad choices at times doesn't mean that they're a bad person at heart. So I feel some fans miss the point about that. Now, to be fair, not everyone is going to like the same characters, and there's nothing wrong with not liking a character. The problem, I feel, is that some fans act dishonest about certain characters to justify their dislike for them. Like, I think some fans will excessively vilify a character or refuse to acknowledge progress that a character has made in their development, or hold a grudge against a character for their misdemeanors, even if they have apologized and tried to make amends for it, to justify their hatred. And like I said, I think there's a difference between simply not liking a character versus being dishonest about not liking a character. I trust you can tell the difference too. But I admit I went on a tangent there, but yes, I feel that's always been that's been a bit of a base-breaking moment for some fans. While Ronnie Anne is a very popular character, there are some fans that just refuse to let Ronnie Anne live down her past mistakes. Something that's not so different from members of the Loud family. But I would say, like I said, I do feel Ronnie Anne mostly comes off being more sympathetic when compared to some members of the Loud family. But I do think the Loud family aren't irredeemable either. I think the Loud family do have their good qualities, even if they have made some bad choices. But I do feel that the show had a tendency to not have the Loud family members recognize their more questionable actions or see the consequences of them initially. But they get better in season 3. So otherwise, there are some other good lessons in this particular segment. Bobby mentioning that life isn't always going to be easy sometimes, but things can be enjoyable experiences still if you get into the swing of things. I thought Bobby's pep talk to Lori was really heartwarming. And yeah, Lincoln's comments to Ronnie Anne about how people should be friends with her because of her and not because of where she's from, that's another nice lesson too. Some people unfortunately do feel that that they can't be themselves around some people, and yeah, I can see that. I can see the value of that lesson too, about how people should be friends with someone because of the individual themselves, not about some background detail like where they're from or whatnot. But that was a nice lesson too. But Overall, yeah, I would say that I actually did enjoy this segment. Like I said, I did feel that this segment did well, building up to both the storyline with Lori preparing for her graduation from high school, but also building up the preparations for the Casagrande spinoff series. We get to meet the City Kids trio, who I think will probably become recurring role characters in the spinoff series. And we do get to see more of Ronnie Anne's character. We do get to see Ronnie Anne making some bad choices because of insecurities and fears, but Ronnie Anne eventually seeing the consequences of her actions, learning her lesson, and making a change for the better. And the City Kids trio do accept Ronnie Anne for who she is by the end of the segment, which I think, again, is a nice lesson. Oh, and yes, the Lori and Bobby moments were also heartwarming, and we did get to see more of the of Maria Santiago and the Casagrande family members. Of course, they'll appear again in some later entries in season 3, and I'm sure we'll see them in season 4, and of course they're going to have their own spin-off, so we will get to see more of these characters, have a better understanding of these characters in the spin-off series. So we'll be sure to talk about more details about these family members once they appear again later on. But for now, I would say that's it for this segment. So as of this video, we've now discussed the A segment of episode 57 of The Loud House on this channel. Take care, and until next time,